Finances can be confusing. You work hard, get that paycheck, but somehow the money just disappears. Maybe you're tired of the endless cycle of bills and barely scraping by. Well, what if I told you there's another way? A way to break free from the rat race and actually build wealth? That's the promise of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in this video, we're cracking it wide open. We'll be diving into the core lessons of this financial bestseller, lessons that could change your relationship with money forever. Sound too good to be true? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have the tools to escape the financial struggle and start building a life of freedom. So, grab a pen, open your mind, and let's unlock the secrets to financial success with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The Two Dads. Kiyosaki uses a unique approach, contrasting the financial philosophies of his two dads. His rich dad, actually his friend's father, is a self-made millionaire who teaches him the importance of financial literacy and building wealth through assets like businesses and real estate. His biological dad, the poor dad, is a highly educated professor who struggles financially despite a good job. Robert Kiyosaki, the author behind Rich Dad, Poor Dad, asserts that school systems overlook teaching the fundamental science of earning money. Instead, they focus on grooming individuals to fit into the employee mold and pursue traditional careers. Growing up in a middle-class family, like many of us, often means inheriting a blueprint for financial struggle. This isn't due to a lack of care from our parents, but rather their own lack of financial education. Passed down from generation to generation, poverty behaves like an inherited trait, according to Kiyosaki. Rich Dad, Poor Dad stands out as a beacon of financial enlightenment, a book I wish I had encountered in my early teens. I urge you to dive into its pages or watch this video, as I'll be unpacking its 7 key lessons in detail. Lesson number 1 hits hard: the wealthy don't work for money. A pivotal moment in Kiyosaki's life occurred at just 9 years old when he and his friend Mike were excluded from a classmates' gathering due to their economic status. Returning home, Kiyosaki sought advice from his dad on how to become rich, only to receive the cliché response of making more money. Recognizing the limitations of this advice, Kiyosaki's journey took a turn when his poor dad encouraged him to seek wisdom from Mike's rich dad. Despite Rich Dad's lack of formal education, he possessed invaluable insights on wealth creation. He offered to teach Kiyosaki and Mike the secrets of making money, but under one condition: they had to work for him. Rejecting traditional classroom methods, Rich Dad emphasized learning through action, a philosophy diametrically opposed to the passive learning style of school. The lesson was clear: decisive action is the gateway to financial success. Opportunities are transient, and the ability to seize them swiftly distinguishes the financially adept from the stagnant. Faced with the ultimatum, Kiyosaki and Mike made a bold choice, accepting Rich Dad's offer and embarking on a journey toward financial literacy. Mike's dad happily agreed, offering them 10 cents an hour for 3 hours of work every Saturday. Despite having a softball game scheduled for that day, Robert opted to work and learn instead of playing. He recognized this as a golden opportunity and didn't want to let it slip away. So, Robert and Mike embarked on a new job under Mrs. Martin's supervision, managing a small supermarket. These were the type of stores where people bought everyday essentials like milk, bread, butter, and cigarettes. However, the absence of air conditioning posed a challenge, as dust would settle inside whenever a car passed by, forcing them to keep the doors wide open to the road and parking lot. Their task was to remove canned goods from the shelves, dust them off with a feather duster, and neatly res-tack them. It was incredibly dull work. Despite the meager pay of 30 cents for 3 hours of labor, equivalent to the price of one comic book back then, they persevered because they wanted to grasp the art of making money. However, after 3 weeks of this routine, Robert reached his breaking point. He felt like a mere slave earning just 10 cents an hour, and he hadn't even seen Mike's dad since their initial meeting. Thus, at lunchtime on the 4th week, he informed Mike of his decision to quit. School was already dull, and he refused to waste his Saturdays on this job any longer. To his surprise, Mike responded with a knowing smile, revealing that his dad had anticipated Robert's resignation. Mike's dad had instructed him to arrange a meeting once Robert was ready to quit. This revelation infuriated Robert, but Mike explained that his father's teaching method differed from that of Robert's parents. He preferred experiential learning over lectures. Intrigued, Robert agreed to meet with Mike's dad the following Saturday. Even his own father was displeased with Mike's dad, advising Robert to demand a raise and quit if his terms weren't met. When Robert arrived at Mike's house, he was kept waiting for 45 minutes before Mike's dad finally emerged. Frustrated and angry, Robert confronted him about failing to uphold his end of the deal. He accused Mike's dad of greed and disrespect toward his employees. In response, Mike's dad challenged Robert's understanding of teaching, emphasizing life's role as the ultimate educator. He stressed that life rarely communicates directly but teaches through experience. This encounter left Robert contemplating the profound wisdom embedded in life's lessons. He elaborated on how life often nudges us to learn valuable lessons. While some passively endure life's pushes, others resist against perceived injustices such as their jobs, bosses, or partners. However, only a select few embrace life's challenges as opportunities for growth. Rich Dad shared his experience of managing over 150 employees, noting that none of them had ever sought to learn about money. Instead, they merely sought jobs and paychecks, failing to comprehend the deeper purpose of their work. When Mike expressed their desire to learn how to make money, Rich Dad saw an opportunity to impart practical wisdom. He initiated a program designed to replicate real-life experiences, offering them a nominal wage of 10 cents per hour. Despite initial frustration, Rich Dad clarified that he wanted them to experience life's challenges firsthand to grasp his teachings. When asked what he had learned from working for such a low wage, Robert criticized Rich Dad's apparent greed and lack of respect for his employees. He even threatened to quit if Rich Dad didn't pay or teach them more. However, Rich Dad countered that quitting and seeking higher-paying jobs wouldn't resolve their issues. He emphasized the importance of making money work for them. Slowly, Robert began to comprehend the underlying lesson Rich Dad aimed to impart. When Robert affirmed his desire to continue learning, Rich Dad ceased paying them for their work at the store, challenging them to think critically. For 3 weeks, Robert and Mike worked without pay. One day, Mike's dad treated them to ice cream and prompted them to reflect on their lives. Rich Dad encouraged them to consider if their current path, marked by hard work for little pay and the illusion of job security, truly excited them. He then offered them a raise of 25 cents per hour, challenging their resistance. Despite the potential financial gain, they declined, realizing that true fulfillment lay beyond the confines of conventional employment. Rich Dad increased his offer to $1 per hour, then $2. With each raise, Robert felt his heart racing, tempted by the prospect of becoming the wealthiest kid in the world. He envisioned a new bicycle, a shiny baseball glove, and the admiration of his friends. However, he couldn't bring himself to accept the offer. Observing the two boys, Rich Dad recognized the conflict within them. He understood that every person has both a vulnerable, easily influenced side and a resilient, unbuyable side. Making a final offer of $5 per hour, he watched as their expressions shifted from temptation to calmness. Rich Dad commended them for not succumbing to a price tag, highlighting how most people are driven by fear and greed, trapped in what he termed the rat race. When Mike inquired about an alternative, Rich Dad hinted at a different path, one they would learn while working with him for no pay. Emphasizing the importance of truth, Rich Dad explained that confessing one's true feelings to oneself is the first step. He expressed doubt in the ability of his employees to confront their fears, noting how fear often dictates their actions. Rich Dad cautioned against the pursuit of riches as a solution to problems, revealing that many wealthy individuals are driven by a fear of insecurity, leading to perpetual anxiety. He warned against letting emotions, particularly fear, cloud logical thinking and drive decision-making. In conclusion, Rich Dad emphasized the fleeting nature of happiness derived from money and the dangers of allowing fear to dictate one's life choices. He urged the boys to recognize and overcome these emotional traps, setting the stage for a journey toward true wealth and fulfillment. Consider when someone fears not having enough money. They may believe securing a job is their sole solution. Yet, a job merely patches a long-term issue temporarily. Learning to think independently, without letting emotions rule, is crucial. Rich Dad saw hope when both boys agreed to work for free. They resisted their emotions when tempted with more money. They were learning to think despite being emotionally charged. He encouraged them to keep using their brains, work for free, and soon their minds would uncover money-making avenues beyond wages. They would perceive opportunities others overlook, guiding their financial journey. The boys followed Rich Dad's advice, creating a library where kids paid an admission fee to read comic books. Hiring Mike's younger sister as head librarian, they charged each child 10 cents for admission. It was a bargain, considering a comic book cost 10 cents each, allowing kids to read 5 or 6 in 2 hours. Mike and Robert earned $9.50 per week over 3 months. They paid his sister $1 a week, allowing her to read comics for free. Despite closing the library after a fight, they learned to make money work for them, even in their absence. They learned the first lesson: the rich don't work for money. They were enthusiastic about learning more, and Mike's dad was prepared to impart knowledge to them. Lesson 2: the importance of financial literacy. When people inquire about Robert's path to wealth, he echoes the advice of his rich dad: to become wealthy, one must possess financial literacy. Take accounting, for instance, an often dull and perplexing subject, yet absolutely essential for financial success. To simplify it, Rich Dad employed illustrations and straightforward language to educate the two boys. One of the initial lessons Rich Dad taught Robert and Mike was about distinguishing between assets and liabilities. He emphasized that to become wealthy, all one needs to do is invest in assets. It's a straightforward principle, yet one that eludes many. Initially, when Rich Dad introduced this concept to Robert and Mike, they were incredulous. They couldn't believe that something so simple could be overlooked by adults. Shouldn't everyone be wealthy if it's that simple? However, the reality is that most people have been taught differently by bankers, financial planners, and others. Thus, they must reevaluate their understanding and unlearn misconceptions. Consequently, many end up mistaking liabilities for assets. Robert provides straightforward definitions for assets and liabilities. An asset is something that generates income, while a liability drains it. The cash flow pattern of an asset is illustrated by two main components: an income statement at the top, which records revenue and expenses, and a balance sheet at the bottom, designed to reconcile assets with liabilities. Assets contribute positively to your financial status by generating income. For instance, renting out a house is considered an asset because it generates monthly income. Conversely, liabilities detract from your financial health by consuming resources. To achieve wealth, Robert emphasizes the importance of steering clear of liabilities and focusing on acquiring more assets. These simplified diagrams offer insights into how individuals manage their finances. Robert frequently observes that individuals in debt often believe that earning more money will solve their problems. However, simply having more money can exacerbate financial issues, leading to reckless spending. This phenomenon is evident when people squander sudden windfalls, like lottery winnings or inheritances. Financial education is the missing piece for many individuals seeking financial stability. They might excel in their careers but struggle with finances because they lack financial literacy. Making money is one thing, but managing it effectively is another. Intelligence doesn't always translate to financial savvy. While they've mastered earning, they've overlooked the importance of making money work for them. Many still consider their home an asset, but Robert argues it's a liability due to ongoing expenses like taxes. Buying a house isn't off limits, but it's crucial to prioritize income-generating assets first. Robert's wealth equation is simple: it's your ability to sustain yourself without working. When your assets cover your expenses, you're wealthy, even if not yet rich. Lesson 3: focus on your own business. Robert's friend attended a talk by Ray Kroc, McDonald's founder, in 1974 at the University of Texas. After hanging out with the students for a few beers, Ray asked them what business he was in. Initially, they chuckled and replied that he sold hamburgers. However, Ray clarified that he wasn't in the hamburger business, but in real estate. He understood that the land and location of each franchise were crucial to its success. Today, McDonald's owns some of the most valuable intersections and street corners worldwide, making it the largest single owner of real estate globally. There's a significant disparity between one's profession and business. Robert often questions people about their business, to which they typically respond with their profession, like "I'm a banker." When asked if they own the bank, they usually admit they work there. This confusion between profession and business is widespread. Many individuals work for others, including their employers, government taxes, and mortgage lenders. Ray Kroc and Rich Dad knew the third secret of the rich: mind your own business. Too many people spend their lives working for someone else, inadvertently enriching others. Minding your business doesn't necessarily mean starting a company, although it might for some. Instead, it's about focusing on your asset column rather than your income column. Maintain your day job, but invest in real assets, not liabilities that depreciate quickly. Keep expenses minimal, reduce liabilities, and steadily accumulate solid assets. Parents should impart this knowledge to their children before they leave home, ensuring they grasp the importance of true assets and avoid falling into a cycle of debt. Robert categorizes real assets into several types. First, businesses that operate without his direct involvement. He owns them but delegates management to others. If he has to be present, it's not a business but a job. Second, stocks. Third, bonds. Fourth, income-generating real estate. Fifth, royalties from intellectual property like music and patents. Sixth, anything else valuable, generating income, or appreciating with a ready market. Acquire assets you're passionate about. Robert's fondness for real estate leads him to devote most of his time to contemplating and exploring opportunities in that field. If real estate doesn't excite you, avoid investing in it. Even during his tenure at Xerox, Robert focused on his own ventures. He maintained his day job while steadily expanding his asset portfolio. As his understanding of accounting and cash management deepened, he became more proficient at assessing investments, eventually establishing his own enterprise. He doesn't advocate starting a company unless there's genuine enthusiasm. Instead, he advises people to retain their day jobs while nurturing their asset base. As cash flow increases, you can indulge in luxuries, but only if it's financially sustainable. Prioritize building your asset portfolio, allowing the income generated to fund luxuries. When your assets yield enough income to cover such expenses, that's the time to indulge. Lesson 4: The history of taxes and the power of corporations. While many view Robin Hood as a hero for taking from the rich and giving to the poor, Rich Dad saw him as a crook. Despite the belief that the rich should shoulder more tax burden and support the less fortunate, it's often the middle class, especially the educated upper-income group, that bears the brunt of taxation. Robert provides a brief overview of tax history in England and America. Originally, there were no taxes, only sporadic levies for war and emergencies. In 1874, England established permanent income tax, followed by America in 1913. Initially, these taxes targeted the wealthy but eventually affected the poor and middle class, despite their initial support. Rich Dad and Poor Dad held opposing views. Poor Dad, a government employee, thrived by spending and expanding his organization. In contrast, Rich Dad earned respect from investors by minimizing spending and staff. Poor Dad believed in government aid, while Robert faced a dilemma working for a capitalist yet returning home to a government official. As Robert delved into tax history, he realized that as government spending increased, taxes extended to the middle class, perpetuating the cycle. However, the wealthy recognized an opportunity because they operate under different rules. Corporations, originating from the days of sailing ships, provided a tax loophole. Understanding the legal framework of corporations gave the wealthy a significant advantage, enabling them to outsmart intellectuals. A corporation is merely a legal document establishing a separate legal entity. It's not a tangible entity like a factory or a group of people, yet it offers a lower income tax rate than individuals. Hence, most affluent individuals pay minimal taxes, if any. Attempts to penalize the rich often fail as they find ways to reduce their tax burden. Lesson number 5: The rich invest money. Our mind is our most critical asset. With proper training, simple ideas or agreements can yield millions. Increasing financial intelligence unveils opportunities invisible to others, essentially creating wealth. For instance, during the early 1990s, amidst Arizona's economic downturn, Robert and his wife Kim thrived. Robert shares an example of purchasing a $75,000 house for $20,000. Though lacking the down payment, they borrowed $2,000 from a friend for a $200 fee. While the transaction processed, Robert advertised the house for $60,000, requiring no down payment. Upon acquiring legal ownership, he swiftly sold it, generating $40,000 virtually from thin air. Total time invested, 5 hours. This straightforward example demonstrates how ideas can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars when you enhance your financial acumen and perceive opportunities others overlook. According to Robert, markets fluctuate, investments vary, and the world constantly presents lifetime opportunities. The key is to recognize them. As you cultivate your financial intelligence over time, more opportunities emerge. Our evolving world offers numerous changes, and improving your financial IQ enables you to view future transformations with enthusiasm, not fear. By seizing opportunities instead of succumbing to fear, you position yourself to move boldly forward rather than watching from the sidelines. For example, 300 years ago, land represented wealth. Later, factories and production became sources of wealth. Today, wealth lies in information. However, information travels globally at lightning speed, and this trend will accelerate over time. Lesson 6: Learn through work, not just for money. In a past interview in Singapore, a journalist expressed her desire to become a best-selling author like Robert. Despite her excellent novels, they never sold. Robert advised her to take a sales training course. Offended, she, with a master's in English literature, couldn't see the value in learning sales. She disliked salespeople. Robert clarified that he was a best-selling, not necessarily the best-writing author. Unwilling to learn sales, she left the interview. Many talented individuals, like her, struggle financially. As one business consultant says, they are one skill away from greatness. When it comes to money, most people only know how to work hard. If the reporter took sales courses and landed a job at an advertising agency, she'd learn sales skills. Then, she could use them to sell more novels when Robert released his first book. A publisher suggested changing the title to The Economics of Education, but Robert knew it wouldn't sell. Though he supports education, he chose a controversial title to gain media attention, which succeeded. Rich Dad advised Robert to diversify his knowledge. That's why Robert and his friend Mike worked various jobs to gain diverse experiences. Most people focus on pay and benefits in the short term, working hard for a secure job. But they should seek work that teaches necessary skills. Robert advises taking a long-term view. Instead of just working for money and security, learn a second skill by taking a second job. Many resist this, fearing change, but it's like going to the gym. You'll be glad you did it once it's over. Poor Dad wanted Robert to specialize, but that didn't work well. He didn't realize that specialization traps you in one area. Rich Dad, however, encouraged Mike and Robert to diversify, learning about different areas of business. According to Robert, the main skills needed for success are 1. Management of cash flow. 2. Management of systems. 3. Management of people. The critical specialized skills are sales and marketing, which Robert continually hones. He dedicates himself to improving in these areas, attending courses and investing in educational resources to broaden his expertise. Lesson 7. Overcoming obstacles. The 4 main reasons financially literate people may still not develop abundant cash flow are 1. Fear. 2. Cynicism. 3. Laziness. 4. Bad habits. Let's look at each of them. Overcoming fear. Nobody enjoys losing money. The only individuals who've never lost money in investments are those who haven't tried it. Everyone experiences fear when it comes to losing money. What matters is how you handle that fear and the losses. The key disparity between rich and poor individuals lies in their approach to managing fear. Robert emphasizes, I've never encountered a wealthy person who hasn't faced financial losses, but they don't allow fear to sideline them. Many people play it safe, aiming not to lose, rather than playing to win, leading to financial struggles. While a balanced portfolio is reasonable, it won't yield significant wins. Successful investors embrace a bit of risk, focusing their efforts on selected opportunities. Overcoming cynicism, whether it's our own self-doubt or the doubts of others, we often let that uncertainty paralyze us. We play it safe, and in doing so, miss out on opportunities. Robert illustrates this with a story about a friend who almost invested in a lucrative property deal but backed out due to a neighbor's negative opinion. If he had persisted, he could have doubled his investment and stepped closer to financial freedom. Doubts and cynicism often hold people back from prosperity. Rich Dad's perspective was clear: cynics criticize, and winners analyze. Winners remain vigilant for opportunities that others overlook. Real estate stands as a potent avenue for financial independence, yet many shy away due to concerns about maintenance or tenant issues. Focusing on trivialities like these can hinder financial growth. Overcoming laziness. What's the remedy for laziness? A dash of greed. This might sound harsh, as many of us were taught that greed is negative. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, shift your mindset to how can I afford it? This triggers your brain to seek solutions. I can't afford it is a falsehood. Deep down, we know we're capable of anything. By rejecting limitations, we create harmony between our spirit and our dormant will. How can I afford it? Cultivates resilience and vitality. Without a hint of greed, the drive for improvement wouldn't exist. Our world advances because we crave betterment. Innovations arise from this desire. Education flourishes because we aspire for more. Excessive greed is detrimental, but a sprinkle can ignite motivation. Overcoming bad habits. To thrive, you need effective habits. Poor Dad habitually paid others first, leaving little for himself. Conversely, Rich Dad prioritized paying himself, even if funds were tight. He understood that creditors and the government expected prompt payment. This drove him to explore additional income streams. Prioritizing self-payment strengthened his resolve. Unlike paying himself last, it instilled a sense of urgency, compelling him to brainstorm ways to meet financial obligations. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a thought-provoking read that can spark your interest in personal finance. It's a great starting point for anyone who wants to learn more about building wealth and break free from the traditional financial mold. However, keep in mind it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and further research is crucial before making any major financial decisions. So, is it a must-read? For a quick and inspiring introduction to financial concepts, it's definitely worth checking out. But remember, it's just the first step on your financial literacy journey. Do your own research, consider your personal circumstances, and don't be afraid to seek professional financial advice. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button and subscribe for more book breakdowns and financial tips to help you become the master of your money. Let's get financially fit together.